All right, guys, I want to remind you about our soon-to-be award-winning show, brand new. We've had about 4 or 5 episodes right now, maybe 6. KDKA Fan Nation, sponsored by JP Roofing, our U412 for life. And it's about you, the fan. That's who we're taking a look at. The best fans, I would say, in the country, right? Steeler Nation, Pirates fans we even talk to, Penguins fans. Sometimes we dive into Pitt and Penn State, but we take a look at the fan and fan caves. And now that Chris Mueller has another new house, Chris, are you going to put a fan cave in? Can we come tour it? Do you have anything cool that you want to show off?
You say another new house like I've got properties all over the East Coast here. I mean, I sold the last house to get into this house, so it's the only house I've got right now. We still have not actually spent a night in the house because we've been painting it. However, I will be honest, very big basement, very excited about the possibilities, putting a very large TV down there. I think the coolest thing I have for that basement is a bunch of old Sports Illustrated covers of like boxers, Tyson, Holyfield, even back I think into the 70s, that were given to me by 93.7 The Fan cohort, Eric Hagman. And I'm going to get those framed and put those bad boys up because I am a big fan of the sweet science.
Well, that would be cool, and we would definitely like to feature that. All right, so, Chris, I want to get into baseball a little bit. You saw what Rob Manfred said today to Sportico, I think it was. It could be devastating next year for Major League Baseball if they don't have any fans. I think for every sport we're looking at, if they can't contain this virus somehow by April-ish, if there's not a vaccine, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, Major League Baseball's not going to fold, but how can you fix it? I mean, what can you fix? That you need to do something, right? Not only with Major League Baseball, but potentially football. Could it go that long into football season? Hockey could get killed.
I mean, could it go that long? I feel like we were asking these questions at the very beginning of this, and the numbers are worse than they were back then. I mean, I don't really want to go down that road because I think we all see the statistics bearing out. Could it go that long? Absolutely. Will it? It might. I mean, it's not good, and I think everybody knows it. One thing I have a big problem with, though, as far as it pertains, to Rob Manfred. What did the Royals sell for? Like $1 billion plus? What are the Marlins valued at? What do they sell for? $2+ billion? I mean, it's very hard for me to sit here and listen to the commissioner of a sport, who doesn't even like the sport, it seems, by the way, cry poor for all of his owners about how bad this is going to beat them up, when the real way they make their money, which is these franchises just rise in value year after year and then eventually they sell them. It's hard for me to reconcile those two things. I don't know about you, but Rob Manfred saying, oh, we're going to have tons of debt. Oh, this is going to be a big problem. It kind of falls on deaf ears when even the crappiest franchises in the sport are worth 9 or 10 figures.
Yeah, $8.3 billion, that's with a B that he's claiming they have debt. I'd like to see a salary cap. Maybe it would force it. They got to do something. But, all right, this call looks interesting here, Chris. JB from Squirrel Hill. He wants to talk about Narduzzi. What's up, JB?
How are you guys?
Good, thanks for calling.
Okay, so I watched the Pitt-Miami game, and I was struck by just the amount of drop balls. And it's like Narduzzi's recruiting guys who can't make plays. I mean, this guy, I think, has to go. I mean, I don't see any other way. It's terrible. What do you think?
I would be more upset. I would be more upset, by the way, JB, about the way their defense is getting strafed, because that's the kind of guy he's really trying to recruit, and that's his side of the ball. That's been his calling card. The offense is one thing. Listen, I'll be the first person to line up and say I am very tired of watching Mark Whipple call his quarterbacks over to send in a play that isn't going to work and then look at them like he can't believe they didn't do what he wanted them to do when they come over to the sideline. But if you're mad about Pat Narduzzi and you're mad about recruiting and you're mad about a lack of playmakers, and this is the problem, I think they have several on the defensive side of the ball, legitimate guys who are good enough and will play on Sunday someday. You got to look at the head coach, who's a defensive guy, and say, why isn't your defense chock full of all these athletes that you said you were recruiting performing better? I mean, that is just bitterly, bitterly disappointing to watch.
What is this, the 80s? I mean, you got to have an up-tempo offense in college football nowadays. You got to be able to score in a minute. That's not Pitt right now. And you're right, their defense, they've given up. That's the major problem right now. They've given up 30 straight points or more in their last 4 games. Now, granted, they played 2 really good teams, but 2 teams they should have beat. And look, What I think right now is this season's going to spiral out of control. And if you're asking about Narduzzi, I don't think they do anything with him this year. Potentially, if he has a season like this next year, then maybe one of the boosters will come in and try to buy him out. But he's owed too much money, and right now everyone's suffering. So I don't think that they have the money to even, if they wanted to do anything.
Well, you know what the real disappointing thing here should be for Pitt fans? I mean, the head coach himself said it, and this is Pat Narduzzi's big weakness. He can't resist talking tough when he thinks he's got a team he can really work with. He talked these guys up. This is my best roster. This is the best we've ever been. Jalen Twyman's opting out. Don't worry. He's great, but we've got a ton of great players behind him. When you trumpet up a season like it's going to be the next big thing and finally represent some sort of turning point for the program, and you fall flat and thud the way that they have these last 4 games, that exacerbates everything else you've said. That makes all the bad stuff worse when you talked tough to precede it.
Especially then when the players were talking tough and felt like they were disrespected when they were ranked 21st and 24th. And look at them now. All right, let's go out to Jim.
That seems like eons ago.
Yeah, doesn't it? Let's go out to Jim in Bethel Park. How you doing, Jim?
Hey, Richie and Chris. How you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for calling.
Good.
Hey, got a question. I want to get your opinion on the Antonio Brown signing in Tampa. How is it that Brown can play so soon? He was out of football completely, not signed with any team, and that counts to his suspension as a credit for the games? Shouldn't it have started with the signing to a team first? How can you serve?
Jim, that's a good question. I actually
you aren't playing for any team.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I actually thought the same thing here, Chris. I thought the suspensions usually start when you sign with someone, but I guess in his case that we had this weird year that the suspension started at the beginning of football, right? So he can go 8 weeks and he can play the 9th week, which would get you into the second week of November, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was an 8-game suspension for him. And listen, I want in no way to be what I'm saying to be construed as being an apologist for Antonio Brown here at all. But he was allowed to twist in the wind by the NFL forever, and they just would not come to some sort of final decision on their league investigation of his conduct off the field. And that just seemed to drag on for months when it didn't need to. He deserved a suspension. He got one, but they made it very clear that it was going to be an 8-week suspension whether he was on a team or not. So that's the bottom line answer to the question right there.
All right, Jim Shaler, what's up, Jim?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good, thanks for calling.
Good.
Hey, three quick points real quick I want to make and see what you guys think. Steelers wide receivers are awesome. I think they could play with anybody, especially when Deontay Johnson's in there healthy. They look great. Spillane, the linebacker, played great. Guys were knocking him down all week, but he did play great yesterday. I don't know if he can keep it up, but he did have a good game. I am worried about the secondary. When they get these big leads, they keep blowing these big leads and make these games close. What do you guys think about for the future? Because they got to tighten up that secondary if they're going to go on to a Super Bowl. Thanks.
Jim, I'm actually not concerned about the secondary at all, and I am concerned about Spillane a little bit. He's made a couple highlight plays. Yeah, a big play. But I still am concerned. I wouldn't mind. The trading deadline's coming up here. How about someone like Gerard Davis? This is a guy that it doesn't seem like he fits in Detroit, and Mike Tomlin liked him at the draft. I mean, if it takes a 5th rounder, roll the dice a little bit. Have like a Nick Van Etten trade. It didn't work out for Nick Van Etten, but maybe someone like him it would.
Well, I mean, if you're trying to bring in somebody that's going to slot in the middle of your defense as an off-ball linebacker, that's going to be really tough to have them calling signals or wearing the green dot or anything like that. So then you're going to be upsetting that particular apple cart and maybe making more changes. So I don't know. I mean, Avery Williamson's out there. There's a couple other names. Darren Lee is out on the street because he's kind of a off-the-field risk and a problem right now. There is talent, but I think they're going to stand pat. As for Spillane, we know he was a downhill player, a guy who liked to bring thump. Those are his 2 highlight reel plays against Hooper and against Derrick Henry. What happens when a team is able to get him off his spot and off his keys on play action? That might happen as soon as this Sunday. So I'm very wary of him. I'm a little concerned about their secondary. But to end this on a positive note, those wide receivers are awfully good and in very different ways.
No question about it. And I keep saying Devin Bush might be the biggest loss for this defense, especially in a game like this where he's a guy that potentially could spy a guy like Lamar Jackson a little bit. Now you don't really have that guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, does anybody here, do any of the
No.
Steelers players, they all said nice things about Spillane, and I think they all genuinely respect him for having the temporary insanity to just go head-to-head with Derrick Henry, mano a mano right there. You think any of them want to see him in space trying to corral Lamar Jackson?
I don't
think
think
really
so.
want anybody in the league trying to do that, so let alone Robert Spillane.
All right, now we go to our Tri-State Office Furniture tweet of the day, and this is from Eric Ebron. Adam Schefter tweeted, and he quote tweeted, the NFL's last unbeaten team in 2020 season with Baltimore up next, and he said, we will be more than ready. Well, we'll see Sunday at 1 o'clock, a game you can see on KDKA. All right, back with more questions and tweets coming up next. Stay right there.